The boardroom went silent when the janitor's name was spoken by the CEO's own daughter. Just hours earlier, security had dragged him out in front of everyone, accused of stealing a laptop. But when her little voice echoed across the marble lobby, even the investors froze. Because she didn't just know his name, she whispered it like it saved her life. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. Stop him. Security. The head of HR, Marcia Devlin, screamed as the janitor, Michael Ray, was shoved by two guards near the executive elevator. It was lunchtime at a high-profile Boston tech company, and the scene unfolding felt more like a movie than a workplace incident. He was caught near Ms. Wellington's office, and now her laptop's missing, she declared, her voice louder than needed, intentionally public. Michael, a quiet, middle-aged man with tired eyes and calloused hands, didn't protest. He just stared straight ahead, lips tight, the same way he'd done when cleaning vomit in the executive washroom or unclogging toilets without a word. Check his bag, Marcia ordered. They did. There was no laptop, just some sandwiches and foil, an old book of military poems, and a drawing, done in crayon. But her voice stayed harsh. Maybe he stashed it elsewhere. Either way, you're done here. They threw a brown box at his feet. Pack your stuff. By the time Michael had been shoved through the front door, some employees were whispering, others snickering. But then came a voice. Soft, fragile, from the CEO's glass office upstairs. Why are you hurting Mr. Mike? Everyone turned. Standing at the top of the stairs was the CEO's daughter, Zoe, 5 years old. Tiny pink sneakers, one arm clutching a stuffed unicorn, the other pointing toward the lobby. And then she said it again, her voice breaking. Why are you hurting my friend? Silence. People froze mid-step. Even the receptionist typing halted. Mommy, she said as her mother, C.O. Elaine Wellington, rushed forward in heels. He's my safe place. Elaine blinked. What? Zoe looked down at the box. He reads to me in the basement. Every Wednesday. He makes me feel not scared anymore. A board member whispered. Wait, what? Michael, Zoe said, save me. And, just like that, a storm started to gather. But not against Michael. Against them. The moment Zoe's words echoed across the lobby, everything shifted. Michael, still standing outside the front glass doors with his box in hand, had stopped walking. The guards who had dragged him out stood awkwardly, unsure whether to pull him farther or let go. Inside, employees began to gather, phones lowered, murmurs rising like static. Elaine Wellington, the sharp, power-dressed own known for her efficiency and detached demeanor, stood frozen mid-step. Her daughter's words had stunned her, and not just because of what was said, but how it was said. Saved her, she repeated, trying to make sense of it. Zoe, unbothered by the growing audience, walked slowly down the stairs. Her little legs took their time, but her words were crisp. When I get scared, I go to the basement. Mr. Mike's always there. He sings songs, tells stories about soldiers, and brings peanut butter crackers. He says I'm a hero when I get through the day. The board members who'd been in the glass-walled meeting room drifted toward the balcony edge, watching. Some looked curious, others uncomfortable. Elaine crouched slightly. Zoe, sweetheart, why didn't you ever tell me? Because you're always busy. And Mr. Mike says sometimes grown-ups forget to look for scared kids. But he never forgets. There it was. The crack, not in Zoe's voice, but in Elaine's facade. Behind them, Marcia Devlin tried to reassert herself. CEO Wellington, I strongly advise we get her upstairs. This janitor is still under investigation. Did you see him take it? Zoe asked, turning her tiny head toward Marcia. The woman blinked. Excuse me. You said he stole something. But did you see it? Or are you just being mean like you always are to him? Even Michael, still just outside, couldn't believe what he was hearing. Elaine slowly rose. Her eyes traveled the length of the lobby, landing on Marcia. Where's the evidence? She asked quietly. Marcia stammered. Well, I mean, he was seen near my office, close to the area. The laptop was gone. It's just logic. Logic, Elaine repeated coldly. We accuse a man, publicly, on logic? Michael turned, slowly walking back through the doors. He didn't expect to be welcomed. But he couldn't walk away now. Not while that little girl was standing there defending him like no one ever had. Elaine spotted him approaching and met his eyes. "Michael Ray, how long have you known my daughter?" His voice cracked for the first time in years. "She started coming down about 6 months ago. I didn't think anyone noticed. She never said much at first. Just sat with her lunch. One day, she asked if I knew any poems. I said yes. And you didn't think to tell anyone?" He looked at the little girl, then back at Elaine. "Ma'am, I've seen enough of what happens when people in suits don't listen. I figured if I said something, they'd tell me to stop, and I didn't want to let her down." There was no grand speech, just that simple, quiet truth. The tension in the room turned to something different. Respect. Shame. Realization. Zoe walked up to Michael and hugged his leg. "He's my friend, Mommy. Don't take him away." Elaine blinked fast. Marcia muttered, "We still don't know where the laptop is." "Stop talking, Marcia," Elaine snapped. "You've said enough." Then, loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear, "Michael Ray is not fired. He's reinstated immediately, with a public apology to follow." Michael opened his mouth to protest, but Elaine raised a hand. "I'm not doing it for you," she said, voice shaking just slightly. "I'm doing it for her." And then, she turned to the guards. "Go. Find a real thief. Check every security feed. From this moment, this company owes Mr. Ray the same dignity it owes every executive in this building." Up in the boardroom, the investors sat in shocked silence. One finally broke it. "She said he reads to her in the basement." Another investor added, "I heard the kids say he was her safe place." A third one, older, looked over his glasses. "And that janitor just took the blame for a crime with zero protest. That's either guilt or humility." Elaine entered, her tone hard and unapologetic. "The company just nearly destroyed a man's life because we trusted instinct over integrity. I won't allow this place to become that kind of machine." "What about the theft?" someone asked. Elaine glanced toward the lobby again. "Whoever did it, they better pray I don't find out." Security combed the offices while murmurs spread like fire through the building. Most employees had returned to their desks, but their eyes were glued to company group chats and Slack channels. The story wasn't just about a missing laptop anymore. It was about the janitor the CEO's daughter called her hero and the way the company had treated him. Elaine stood behind the glass in her office, hands gripping the edge of the table. She wasn't just angry. She was ashamed. Somewhere along the climb to CEO, she'd forgotten the small voices, the invisible hands that kept everything running, the quiet people like Michael Ray. And now that name wouldn't stop ringing in her ears. Michael Ray. She remembered it from somewhere. She buzzed her assistant. "Give me his employee file." "All of it." "Right away, ma'am." Down in the security office, 2 guards reviewed camera feeds from the prior night. It didn't take long before one of them spotted a strange clip. "Pause. Rewind that. Zoom in." There, clear as day, Marcia Devlin, after hours, walking briskly down the hallway, holding something silver under her coat. A laptop. Not hers. The timestamp matched the exact time of the reported theft. They stared at each other. One picked up the phone. Meanwhile, Michael sat alone in the basement maintenance room. He hadn't touched his lunch. The foil lay opened, crackers untouched. The drawing Zoe had made, a crayon picture of her holding hands with him, a sun overhead, rested on the desk beside him. He was used to silence, but today it hurt differently. He'd never asked for credit, never expected it. But being accused, humiliated like that, it cut deeper than any dirty mop bucket or cold morning shift. The door creaked. Elaine stepped inside. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she looked around the room. It was cleaner than most executive offices. A small radio sat in the corner. A bookshelf of worn novels and a dog-eared Bible. On the wall, dozens of folded paper cranes. And next to them, a photo of a man in uniform. Younger. Saluting. A bronze star pinned on his chest. "You were in the Army," she said quietly. Michael nodded once. 21 years. 3rd Infantry Division. Elaine folded her arms, brows pulled low. "Why'd you never put that in your application?" "I wasn't looking for recognition. Just work. Something steady." She hesitated. "You could have been in corporate." He offered a tired smile. "Some of us don't want to climb anymore. Some of us just want to do something real. Keep things clean. Watch the world go by without chasing titles." There was silence. Elaine finally pulled a chair and sat. "My daughter trusts you." She hasn't trusted anyone since the accident. Michael looked up, startled. Elaine sighed. 2 years ago, her father, my husband, died in a car crash. She was in the back seat. I was on a flight to Tokyo. I couldn't be there when it happened. And since then, she hasn't opened up to anyone. Michael's eyes softened. She never told me. She tells you stories. I read them in her journal last week. She calls you her knight. Says you teach her how to be brave again. Michael looked away, blinking hard. She saved me too. I've spent the last 10 years in silence. Your daughter reminded me what it feels like to speak without fear. Just then, Elaine's assistant barged in. Ma'am, you need to see this. Security found the footage. Elaine followed her assistant upstairs. Michael, against his instincts, followed behind, just far enough to stay invisible. On the boardroom screen, the entire board sat watching as Marcia's betrayal played out on loop. Elaine walked in with fire in her steps. You planted the laptop to get rid of him, she said, voice cold. Marcia, seated near the back, turned pale. I didn't. That's taken out of context. Elaine stepped forward and slammed a resignation letter down on the table. You'll sign this, or I'll press charges for defamation, breach of conduct, and attempted cover-up. Marcia glanced around. No support. She grabbed the pen. Everyone in the room exhaled. Elaine looked around, her voice rising so even the glass caught its breath. We almost destroyed a man's name because someone thought his title made him disposable. She turned toward the door. Bring him in. Michael stepped inside. Silence fell again. Elaine walked to him. Mr. Ray, I owe you more than an apology. One investor interrupted. Wait, before anything's decided. I want to know who this man really is. Elaine gave a small nod. Michael Ray, retired staff sergeant, Bronze Star recipient, raised in Dorchester, widower, works nights, cleans bathrooms better than most people clean their lives. She turned to Michael. We don't deserve you, but this company needs someone who understands real leadership. Would you consider staying, but not as a janitor? Gasps. Michael blinked. Doing what? Elaine smiled. Training an integrity officer. I want someone who can teach our managers what it means to have character. And for the first time since he was let go, Michael smiled fully. Only if I still get to clean the kids' room downstairs. Elaine laughed through her tears. You can clean the entire building if you want. The news of Marcia's resignation traveled faster than wildfire. In less than an hour, the building was buzzing with quiet cheers, half-muttered apologies, and a flood of private Slack messages that all echoed the same thing. Michael Ray wasn't just a janitor. He was something more. But to Michael, the moment hadn't sunk in. He stood in the employee lounge, not the janitor's closet, for the first time in years. Elaine had insisted he be given full access again, even though most of the room still felt alien. The leather chairs, the glistening water dispenser, the clean microwave that employees never cleaned themselves. Then he felt a tug. Zoe, her little fingers wrapped around his hand, her other hand dragging along a coloring book. You didn't leave, she whispered. He crouched slowly. Didn't plan on it. Not after you called me your friend. She pulled something out of her coat. It was an old, folded ribbon. This was my daddy's, she said. He gave it to me after I finished my first piano recital. He said it meant I was brave. Michael went still. I want you to have it, she added. Because I think you're the bravest. He looked at the ribbon, then at her. Something cracked in him. Not in a broken way, but like a window finally opening after a storm. Thank you, Zoe. She smiled and skipped off. Behind him, Elaine stood in the doorway, watching. He would have liked you, she said softly. My husband. He was a music teacher. Told stories like you do. Real ones. Michael nodded slowly. I'm sorry for your loss. Elaine's voice dipped. I never grieved right. I jumped back into work like nothing happened. Zoe suffered. She couldn't talk to me. I was just gone. But somehow you found her. He didn't say anything. Then she added, You ever lose someone that way? Michael looked down at his hands. They were shaking. My wife. Cancer. 10 years ago. I held her hand through every chemo session. She passed at 3:14 a.m. I was cleaning the VA bathrooms later that morning. Elaine covered her mouth. And my son, he continued, voice quiet but strong, left after her funeral. Said he couldn't watch me disappear into silence. Haven't seen him since. A pause. He used to call me the quiet lion. Said I never roared unless I had to. Elaine's eyes welled up. Then today, I think he roared. That afternoon, an emergency board meeting was called. Not to discuss damage control, but a proposal. Elaine stood at the head of the table, and Michael, cleaned up in a fresh gray button-down, looking every bit like the man behind the curtain, stood beside her. This company's been efficient, but it hasn't been human. And we nearly ruined someone who carried more integrity than most C-suite execs I've met in my life, Elaine said. A few nods around the room. We're implementing a company-wide mentorship program. Veteran-led, community-rooted, and Michael Ray will oversee it. Someone scoffed lightly. He has no corporate experience. Michael stepped forward. No, he said calmly. But I've led 83 men through 2 tours in Iraq. I've built bridges from sand, saved lives with nothing but a belt and a prayer. I've cleaned the blood of this country off VA hospital floors, and I've read bedtime stories to children who were afraid of the dark. He let the silence speak. So no, I've never worn a tie to work, but I damn well know how to lead people with heart. A younger board member cleared his throat. That's honestly more experience than half the exec team has. Soft laughter rippled through the room. An older investor leaned back, smirking. Let's give the lion his roar. The vote passed unanimously. But not everyone was pleased. Later that evening, Michael was walking through the company's underground garage when a figure stepped from behind a pillar. It was Dean Willoughby, the COO. Well, Dean said, arms crossed. From op to mentor. Quite the arc. Michael didn't flinch. You have something to say, say it. Dean's smile was bitter. Men like you get their moment in the sun, then burn out. You think empathy is scalable? That compassion balances books. You'll crash this ship. Michael stepped forward, close enough for his voice to land like a stone. Compassion is what stops ships from crashing. You don't fix companies with spreadsheets. You fix them with people who give a damn. Dean didn't reply, just walked off into the shadows. But Michael knew this wasn't over. Not yet. By morning, the story had escaped the building. A junior HR assistant leaked the security footage. A startup blog picked it up, then a viral Twitter thread. And by 10 a.m., CNN had a headline. CEO's daughter defends janitor. Uncovers corporate lie that shocks everyone. By noon, news vans lined the parking lot. Reporters pressed against the company gates. A protest group showed up with cardboard signs. Justice for Michael Ray, and dignity has no job title. Inside the building, things were quiet, but tense. Elaine canceled all external meetings and held an internal town hall in the main auditorium. Every employee was ordered to attend. So were the board members. The entire workforce filled the seats. Engineers, assistants, cafeteria workers, executives, everyone. Michael stood backstage, eyes lowered. He wore the same gray button-down, freshly ironed. The ribbon Zoe gave him was tucked in his front pocket. Elaine stood beside him, calm but unreadable. You ready? She asked. No, he replied. But I'll do it anyway. She smiled. That's leadership. When Michael stepped onto the stage, a strange thing happened. Everyone stood, not because they were told to, not because of his title, but because of his truth. He walked to the center, adjusted the mic, and scanned the room slowly. Then he spoke. I was a janitor here. I scrubbed toilets on my knees, picked up gum from under your desks, cleaned up messes you didn't even know you made. A few people chuckled nervously, but I was also a staff sergeant. I led young men through war zones. I wrote letters home for the ones who couldn't. And for 10 years after that, I stayed quiet. Thought my best days were behind me. He reached into his pocket, unfolded the ribbon. Then a little girl gave me this. Told me I was brave. And somehow, that reminded me. I'd stopped being brave for myself. He paused, breathing through the wave rising in his chest. This company almost threw me away. Not because of evidence, but because it was easy. People shifted in their seats. But one little voice, Zoe, she changed everything. Because she saw what others didn't. He looked up, eyes fierce now. And if this company wants to grow, to matter, it can't just chase numbers. It has to start seeing the people who build it. The quiet ones. The kind ones. The forgotten ones. The room was silent. I'll accept this new role. Not because I need a title, but because you need a mirror. Someone to remind you who we are when the suits are off and the doors are closed. He stepped back. The applause started slow, then erupted. That afternoon, a black car pulled up outside. A man in his late 20s stepped out. Tall, pale eyes, nervous hands. Michael stepped outside and froze. "Hey, Dad." It was his son. They stood in silence for a long moment. "I saw the video," the young man said. "I had no idea." Michael's throat tightened. "Yeah, neither did I." His son stepped forward, eyes wet. "I'm sorry. For leaving." Michael nodded once, swallowing hard. "You're here now." Then they hugged. Just like that. After 10 years. 3 weeks later, the mentorship program launched with Michael at its head. Veterans, janitors, and blue-collar workers were invited to shadow leadership roles, offer insights, and train teams on resilience and humanity. The company saw its culture rating skyrocket. Resignations slowed. Investors leaned in. One even stood up in a board meeting and said, "We've hired consultants worth millions, and none of them changed morale like this." On the last Friday of the month, Michael sat in the basement again. Only now, the space had been converted into the Zoe room. A quiet, child-friendly lounge with books, soft lighting, and a plaque on the wall. In honor of those who protect the light in others, quietly. Zoe sat beside him, coloring. "Mr. Mike," she whispered, "you're famous now." He laughed. "Don't remind me. Will you still read me stories?" He looked down at her. "Always." Outside, in a marble lobby where it all began, a new display had been installed. A photograph of Michael in uniform. Next to it, the caption, "Integrity is not a position. It's a choice. And sometimes it comes with a mop."